So let's use an example. Let's say if I'm working at a restaurant and I am responsible for maintaining our supply stock. It's my responsibility to make sure that our supply stock does not go over a certain amount, otherwise it gets wasted, and it doesn't dip below a certain amount, otherwise in a pinch we could run out of something. Which means that I'm the one who has the power to control it. I decide what we buy, I decide how frequently we buy it, I can set my own standard on what's the maximum and what's the minimum. I do all these things because it's my responsibility. One day, a cook comes in, he grabs 3 bags of salt, drops them on the floor, they go everywhere, he has to clean them up, and he grabs 3 extra bags. That's several bags of salt that I wasn't planning on getting used up that quickly, so we drop below our minimum. So if the restaurant manager comes in and says, we dropped below the minimum of our supply stock, Josh, you're responsible for that, what happened? I have one of 2 choices. What most people will usually do is that they will deflect the blame. They'll give the responsibility to someone else. It was this person who used up way more salt than they should have, and it's their fault that we dropped below the supplied minimum. Not me, them. But when I blame them, I'm giving them all of my power of control and influence. I'm saying when it comes to the stock, that person has more power than I do, so it's their fault it went below. That person has more control than I do, so it's their fault it went below. So essentially I'm saying that even though it's my responsibility, I'm giving away my power and authority and responsibility to someone else so they can take the blame. That's what most people will do, because no one wants to get blamed for something, because no one wants to be in trouble. Now, the issue with that is that I've made it clear to everyone around that I don't have the power, the authority, or the control to maintain our supply stock, which means that I'm not a good person for this responsibility because I clearly can't do it. I don't have the control with it. The chef has the control, the waitress has the control, the bartenders have the control, someone else has the control, but not me. And that's what you look like every single time you try to deflect responsibility. You are saying to everyone around that I should not be in this position because I don't have enough control to maintain it. Everyone else, or whoever I'm blaming, is the one who has the control. So that person might get the blame for the mistake that I made. However, now everyone's going to look at it and say, well, Bill made this mistake. This issue is Bill's fault. But moving forward, apparently Bill's the one to talk to about stock supply problems because Bill's the one who has all the control. Josh clearly just said that he doesn't have any ability to control it, so let's look at Bill now, because Josh said that Bill is the one in charge of stock. So that's what happens when you deflect. That's what happens when you place blame on other people. You're giving away your responsibility. So let's replay that scenario, but this time I'll own responsibility for my mishap. Manager comes in, says we fell below our stock threshold tonight. Josh, what happened? The team needed more salt than I was assuming they were going to make. That was my fault because I made an incorrect assumption. I know that I screwed up because I made that assumption and I didn't prep for it. Moving forward, I'm not going to have that assumption. I know realistically now that I need more, so I'm going to increase the stock cap on that. So should the scenario play out again, we'll be prepped and ready for it. This was a good learning experience for me. And in that situation, I made it very clear that it was my responsibility. I screwed up. So I'm taking that responsibility piece of the negative situation that happened and I'm turning it into a, hey, this is beneficial for me because I'm going to take action, because now that we've experienced this problem, I know what to expect and I can make sure we never go through this problem again. So in that taking action, I've really reinforced that I am in charge, so I'm going to be an even better person to have this responsibility because I now know more and can do more because we had this negative experience and I took responsibility for it. So the main reason why people won't take responsibility is their fear of getting in trouble. If I take responsibility for something, I might get yelled at, I might get fired, I might get A, B, C, D. That's going to happen every once in a while. It is. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to have a mistake every once in a while and you might get in trouble for it. But in all honesty, a majority of that trouble is going to be remembered for all of 20 minutes. The restaurant manager might say, hey Josh, I appreciate you taking responsibility for it, but that really put us in a really tight position tonight. I don't want it to happen again. It sounds like you've got it under control. Just make sure it doesn't happen again. Restaurant manager's not thrilled with what happened, and that's to be expected. That's normal. However, he knows I took responsibility for it. She knows that I can better do my job in the future because I had this experience tonight. And that's really one of the best parts of taking responsibility is that you can take those incidents that happen, those bad experiences, and if you take responsibility for them, say how you screwed up, what you learned, and what you're going to do in the future to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again, that is very impressive to see. That's what people trust. That's what they want to see in someone who's going to lead a team. They want to see someone who's going to take responsibility for things when they go wrong, and not only take responsibility for them, but learn through them and do better because of them. So by taking that responsibility, I've shown my supervisor as well as the rest of my team that I am a good leader and I'm a good person to have responsible for our store stock.